Aaron had always been a person who loved looking at the stars. Ever since he was a child, he would spend hours lying on the roof of his small house, staring at the night sky. The twinkling lights seemed alive to him, and he would imagine all the worlds that could exist far away from Earth. People around him often told him that he dreamed too much, that the sky was too far to reach, and that he should focus on real life. But Aaron never stopped looking. There was something in the quiet beauty of the stars that made him feel that the universe held more than anyone could ever understand. One evening, after a long day at work, he decided to go for a walk in the valley near his town. It was a place he often visited when he wanted to think, far from the noise of traffic and the chatter of people. The valley was surrounded by high cliffs, with a small stream running through the middle. Birds were quiet as the sun set, and the first stars began to appear in the sky. Aaron enjoyed this time alone, feeling free in a way he could not in the crowded town. But that evening, something unusual happened. As he walked along the stream, he noticed a strange glow coming from the far end of the valley. It was different from any light he had seen before. It was not like the orange glow of a campfire or the soft light of a lantern. This light was bright and steady, and it seemed to hover in the air. Curious and cautious at the same time, Aaron moved closer. As he approached, he realized the light was coming from a large object that seemed to float above the ground. It was shaped strangely, unlike any plane or helicopter he had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with colors that changed as he looked at them, shifting from blue to green to gold. For a moment, Aaron was frozen. His heart raced, and he wondered if he was imagining it. But the glow remained, steady and real. Slowly, he stepped closer, trying to understand what he was seeing. Then, from the light, a figure appeared. At first, he thought it was a person wearing a costume, but the figure was tall, taller than any human, and moved with a grace that seemed almost magical. Its skin glowed faintly and its eyes were large and bright. There was a calm power in the way it stood, and Aaron felt both fear and awe. The figure spoke, and its voice was soft but strong, filling the valley without any sound of wind or echo. "Do not be afraid," it said. Aaron could not believe that. He was hearing words in his own mind. The being introduced herself as the alien queen, a ruler from a distant planet that few humans knew existed. Her presence was calm, but there was authority in every movement she made. She explained that she had come because her daughter had been taken to Earth, far from her home. She needed someone brave and clever enough to bring her back safely. Aaron could hardly believe what he was hearing. The idea of an alien, a queen, a mission to rescue someone from Earth, it all seemed impossible. He looked around the valley, half expecting someone to jump out and tell him it was a trick. But the glow from the figure, the shimmer of her form, and the strange calmness in the air made it clear that this was not a dream. This was real. The queen continued. She explained that her daughter had been captured by people who did not understand her world or her powers. She had tried to reach them, but her own presence on Earth was limited, and she needed help from someone who could move unnoticed. And then, she offered Aaron something he could never have imagined. She promised that if he brought her daughter back safely, she would give him a crown, a symbol of leadership and respect in her world. The crown was more than a simple object. It represented honor, responsibility, and a place among a civilization that was far advanced beyond human understanding. Aaron felt a mix of emotions. Fear was the first. He was an ordinary man, not a hero or a soldier. How could he face the unknown, travel to unknown places and protect someone so important? But then curiosity took over. What if this was his chance to do something truly extraordinary, to step into a story that no one else on Earth could even imagine? And finally, a sense of empathy grew inside him. He thought of the girl who must be scared far from home, and he could not turn away from that thought. The queen seemed to sense his hesitation and smiled gently. "I know you are afraid," she said, "but fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. If you accept this task, you will not be alone. You will have guidance and tools that will help you." She reached out her hand, and in her palm appeared a small device that glowed with energy. It was a tracker, a map, and a key, all in one. With it, Aaron could follow the trail of her daughter across Earth, avoiding dangers that he could not yet imagine. Aaron took a deep breath. His mind raced with questions. How would he find her? What dangers awaited him? And yet, there was a strange certainty in his heart that he had to try. He nodded slowly. "I will do it," he said. The Queen's glow brightened slightly, and she stepped back. She explained that the journey would not be easy. He would face challenges, tests of courage, and moments when he might want to give up. But she believed in him. She said that every step he took would teach him something important, not only about the world he was entering, but about himself. That night, Aaron returned home, but he could not sleep. He kept thinking about the glowing figure, the words of the Queen, and the mission ahead. He felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. He began planning quietly, making mental notes about the places he would need to visit, the people he might meet, and the skills he would need to learn. He knew that the first step was always the hardest, but he also knew that he could not turn back now. In the days that followed, Aaron prepared himself as best he could. He learned about survival in remote areas, basic self-defense, and how to stay calm under pressure. He studied maps, researched unusual places on Earth, and tried to understand what it would mean to meet the unknown. Every evening, he returned to the valley, hoping to see the Queen again, to receive more guidance. Each time she appeared briefly, offering advice and reassurance, never forcing him, always respecting his choices. Aaron realized that this mission was more than a rescue. It was a journey into himself, a challenge that would test his courage, patience, and determination. The stars he had always loved suddenly seemed closer, as if the universe itself had called him for a purpose. And in the quiet moments when the night wind whispered through the trees, he felt a connection to something greater, something beyond ordinary life, that promised adventure, learning, and growth. By the end of the week, Aaron knew that he was ready to take the first step. The Queen had given him everything he needed, but the path ahead depended on his choices. He packed his bag carefully, double-checked the glowing device, and set off toward the unknown. Every footstep felt heavier with responsibility, but lighter with hope. He was leaving the ordinary world behind, stepping into a story that could change his life forever. And though he did not yet know what awaited him, he felt certain of one thing: his life would never be the same again. Aaron began his journey with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had never imagined that his life would lead him to something so extraordinary. The glowing device the Queen had given him pulsed gently in his hand, as if it were alive, guiding him toward the first clue about her daughter's location. The device showed a faint trail of energy that only he could see, moving steadily across Earth. Aaron understood that this journey would take him to places few people ever visited, and he had to be careful every step of the way. The first day of his mission was spent traveling through forests and hills. Aaron had always enjoyed hiking, but now every sound and shadow felt different. He noticed how the wind moved through the trees, how the birds flew silently, and how even the smallest movement could hide something important. The device guided him to a hidden cave, where faint marks on the rocks hinted that someone had passed through recently. He studied the marks carefully, realizing that they were not made by humans. There was a strange pattern, almost like a language, carved in a way that made him pause. He traced the lines with his finger, feeling a connection to the alien world he had never seen before. As he followed the trail, Aaron encountered his first real challenge. A fast-moving river blocked the path, and the only way across was a narrow, slippery log. He paused, considering the risk. Falling into the cold water could delay the mission or even hurt him. Taking a deep breath, he carefully stepped onto the log, keeping his balance as best he could. Each step was tense, but he focused on the glowing device, imagining that it was guiding him safely. When he finally reached the other side, his heart was pounding, and he realized that every obstacle he overcame made him feel stronger and more capable. Aaron continued his journey over several days, moving from dense forests to small towns that seemed ordinary but hid unusual secrets. Sometimes he would meet people who seemed helpful at first but were not aware of the alien presence. A shopkeeper who gave him directions, a farmer who let him rest in a barn, or a child who pointed to a hidden path. All these encounters provided clues, even if the people did not realize it. Aaron learned to observe everything carefully, noting small details that could help him find the Queen's daughter. He realized that being alert and patient was as important as courage. One evening, as the sun set, Aaron noticed a small village tucked into a valley. The village seemed peaceful, but the glowing device pulsed faster, indicating he was close to a significant clue. He approached cautiously, observing the villagers' movements. People looked normal, but he noticed a few who moved in ways that seemed unusual, quick, precise, almost mechanical. Aaron remembered the Queen's words. Her daughter is being hidden in a place humans cannot fully understand. Look for patterns that do not belong. Following this advice, he quietly explored the outskirts of the village, finding a hidden building covered with vines and shadows. Inside the building, Aaron discovered evidence that the Queen's daughter had been there recently. Strange symbols marked the walls, and faint energy pulses resonated in the air. The daughter had left behind traces that only the glowing device could detect. Aaron realized that someone had been observing him as well, because the building was rigged with traps designed to warn intruders. He carefully navigated through the obstacles, remembering that any mistake could ruin the mission. The sense of danger made his heart race, but he focused on the task, feeling a growing confidence in his abilities. During this part of the journey, Aaron also learned more about himself. He discovered patience in waiting, courage in facing uncertainty, and determination in pushing forward even when tired or scared. Nights were the hardest as he camped under the stars, thinking about the Queen's daughter and the responsibility of completing the mission. Sometimes he would hear strange sounds in the distance, rustling leaves, unknown creatures, or shadows moving near him. But he reminded himself that fear was natural, and he must remain calm. The connection to the Queen and her daughter kept him focused, and he felt a growing sense of purpose that he had never experienced in his ordinary life. One day, Aaron reached a mountain pass that the device indicated was an important checkpoint. The path was narrow and winding, and strong winds made every step challenging. As he climbed, he noticed a faint light in a distant cave. It was different from the glow of his device, but seemed to respond to his presence. He approached slowly, realizing that this might be a test left for him by the abductors or even the Queen herself. Inside the cave, he found puzzles and obstacles that tested his intelligence and problem-solving skills. He had to move heavy stones, align symbols, and decipher patterns that seemed almost impossible. It took hours, but he persisted, knowing that giving up was not an option. Finally, he solved the last puzzle, and the cave opened to reveal a hidden passage leading deeper into the mountains. The glowing device pulsed steadily now, as if acknowledging his success. Aaron felt a mixture of relief and excitement. He realized that every challenge so far had prepared him for what was coming. The daughter's captors would not be easy to face, and the journey ahead would require courage, skill, and careful thinking. Yet, for the first time, Aaron felt that he could succeed. He had grown beyond the ordinary person he had been a few days ago. During this part of the journey, Aaron also reflected on the Queen's words about leadership and responsibility. He understood that bringing back her daughter was not just a task, it was a test of character. The crown she offered was tempting, but it was not the true reward. The real reward was learning to face fear, take responsibility, and act with empathy and intelligence. Each obstacle, each puzzle, and each encounter with strangers helped him prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. By the end of Part 2, Aaron had traveled far from home, crossed forests, rivers, villages, and mountains, and solved challenges that tested every part of his mind and body. He felt stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The glowing device led him closer to the Queen's daughter, and he understood that every step forward brought him not only closer to her, but also closer to understanding his own courage and potential. The journey was no longer just about rescuing someone. It was about discovering what he was truly capable of and preparing for the moment when he would face danger directly. Aaron had traveled far and faced many challenges, but nothing prepared him for what lay ahead. As he followed the glowing device through the dense forest at the base of a mountain, he sensed the presence of someone watching him. Every step made, the device pulsed faster, signaling that he was close to the Queen's daughter. The air was thick with tension, and the usual sounds of birds and insects seemed to vanish, replaced by an almost complete silence. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that the real danger was near, and this part of the journey would test his courage more than anything before. Soon he reached a hidden facility, surrounded by tall metal walls that seemed impossible to climb. The place was guarded by advanced security measures that were unlike anything Aaron had seen. Cameras, sensors, and strange devices that emitted soft pulses of light covered every corner. He realized that these captors were not ordinary humans. They had technology that rivaled the Queen's own. Every instinct in Aaron told him to turn back, but he remembered the Queen's words, "Courage is acting despite fear." He took a deep breath and prepared to enter the facility, knowing that his mission could fail with a single mistake. Aaron approached a side entrance that appeared less guarded. Using the glowing device, he detected a weak point in the security system. He carefully bypassed the sensors, moving slowly and silently. The metal door creaked slightly, and his heart raced as he pushed it open. Inside, the facility was dimly lit, with hallways that twisted and turned like a maze. Strange hums echoed through the walls, and Aaron could feel the energy of the building itself. He reminded himself to stay focused, paying attention to every sound and movement. One wrong step could alert the guards or activate traps that he could not predict. As he advanced, Aaron noticed a series of rooms filled with unusual equipment. Devices he could not name hummed and glowed, showing that this place was more than a simple hideout. He realized that the Queen's daughter must be here somewhere, and the captors were studying her abilities. The thought made him move faster, but cautiously. He knew he could not rush or he would jeopardize the mission. Every step he took required careful planning and quick thinking. Finally, Aaron reached a large room at the center of the facility. Through a glass window, he saw a young girl, huddled and frightened, but unharmed. She looked at him briefly, as if sensing that help had arrived. Aaron felt a surge of determination. This was the moment he had prepared for. He had to get her out safely, but the facility was filled with guards and advanced technology designed to stop intruders. He had to think quickly and use both his mind and courage to succeed. He observed the guards' movements carefully, noting patterns and timing. Some walked slowly, others paused at regular intervals, and a few monitored the rooms constantly. Aaron realized that patience and observation would be as important as strength. Using the glowing device, he found a hidden passage that led closer to the girl without alerting the guards. The passage was narrow, dark, and filled with obstacles, but it provided the best chance for a safe approach. Aaron moved carefully, reminding himself that every step counted. When he finally reached the girl, Aaron whispered softly, "I'm here to help. We need to move quickly, but stay calm." She looked at him with wide eyes, fear and hope mixed together. Aaron realized that he not only had to protect her physically, but also reassure her emotionally. He guided her through the narrow passage, keeping an eye on the guards' movements. At one point, a guard almost caught them, but Aaron quickly hid them behind a wall, holding his breath until the danger passed. The sense of relief when the guard moved away was overwhelming, but Aaron knew they were not safe yet. As they moved further, the facility's alarms suddenly began to sound. Red lights flashed and the hum of the machines grew louder. Aaron realized that someone must have noticed their presence. He held the girl's hand tightly and ran through the corridors, using every skill he had learned during the journey. He dodged obstacles, avoided sensors, and found alternative routes through the maze-like building. Each second felt like an hour, but he did not stop. His determination to succeed grew stronger with every step. At one point, they reached a room, filled with energy fields that blocked the exit. Aaron examined the controls nearby, realizing that he could disable the field by solving a simple sequence of patterns. His hands shook as he pressed the buttons, but he focused on the glowing device. For guidance, after a few tense moments, the energy field deactivated, allowing them to move forward. Aaron felt a wave of relief mixed with exhaustion. He realized that courage, patience, and quick thinking were all necessary to face challenges like these. Finally, they reached an emergency exit that led outside the facility. The night air was cool and fresh, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere inside. Aaron and the girl ran through the surrounding forest, guided by the glowing device. They could hear guards shouting in the distance, but the dense trees and his careful planning allowed them to stay hidden. Aaron felt a mixture of triumph and concern. He had succeeded in reaching the girl, but the journey back to the Queen's spacecraft would also be dangerous. During the escape, Aaron learned more about the girl. She was brave, intelligent, and quick to understand the situation, but she had been scared and alone for days. He reassured her, telling her that she was safe now and that they would soon return home. The connection between them grew stronger with every step, and Aaron realized that the mission was not just about courage and skill. It was also about empathy and care. Protecting her meant understanding her fears and supporting her emotionally as well as physically. By the time they reached a safe distance from the facility, Aaron could see the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. The glowing device pulsed steadily, signaling that they were on the right path to the Queen. Aaron felt a mixture of relief, pride, and exhaustion. The mission had tested him in ways he could never have imagined, but he had succeeded in the most important part, finding the Queen's daughter and keeping her safe. He knew the journey was not over, but this victory gave him confidence that he could overcome the challenges ahead. As they rested briefly, Aaron thought about how much he had grown. The fear he felt entering the facility had been real, but it had also taught him that courage was a choice. Every obstacle, every decision, and every moment of danger had strengthened him. He had learned to think clearly under pressure, to act decisively, and to care deeply about someone else's safety. The experience had changed him, preparing him for the next part of the journey where new challenges and decisions awaited. Aaron and the Queen's daughter had escaped the dangerous facility, but the journey was far from over. The forest around them was thick, dark, and unfamiliar. Every rustle of leaves or snap of a branch made Aaron tense, aware that the captors could be pursuing them. The glowing device continued to pulse, guiding them through the dense undergrowth and pointing toward the direction of the Queen's spacecraft. The path was not easy. Fallen trees, hidden streams, and steep hills slowed their progress, but Aaron knew he had to keep moving. Stopping was not an option. The girl, though frightened, began to trust him more with each passing hour. She asked questions about his life, about the world he came from, and even about the alien queen she had never met before. Aaron answered patiently, knowing that keeping her calm was as important as navigating the dangerous terrain. He shared small stories from his life, trying to make her smile and forget her fear, even for a moment. He noticed that her initial wariness had faded slightly, replaced by a sense of hope that someone was here to protect her. As they moved through the forest, they encountered natural obstacles that tested their patience and endurance. At one point, a fallen tree blocked their path across a small ravine. Aaron carefully examined it and decided they could cross by balancing on the trunk. He took the girl's hand, guiding her step by step, reassuring her with each movement. The fear in her eyes was evident, but she trusted him, and together they managed to cross safely. Moments like this strengthened their bond and reminded Aaron that courage was not just about facing enemies, it was also about supporting someone who relied on him. Night fell again, and the forest became even more mysterious. Shadows stretched and moved in strange ways, and distant animal calls echoed through the trees. Aaron decided to rest briefly, knowing that exhaustion could make them careless. They found a small clearing and sat down, the girl leaning against him slightly for comfort. Aaron kept watch while she slept, listening to the sounds around them and ensuring that no one was following. In these quiet moments, he reflected on the journey so far, the dangers they had overcome, the lessons he had learned, and the courage that had grown inside him. The next morning, Aaron noticed that the glowing device was pulsing faster than ever. They were close to the spacecraft. However, reaching it would require navigating a steep mountain pass. The climb was difficult, with loose rocks and sudden drops that made every step dangerous. Aaron encouraged the girl to take it slow, holding her hand and guiding her movements carefully. He knew that one misstep could mean serious injury or failure of the mission. His mind was alert, calculating each move while his heart remained calm, focused on bringing her safely to the Queen. Halfway up the mountain, they were confronted by a group of strange creatures that seemed to guard the area. Aaron paused, hiding behind a rock and observing them. They were not human, and their movements were fast and unpredictable. He realized that fighting them would be risky. Instead, he looked for patterns and openings, waiting for the right moment to move. Using the glowing device, he found a hidden path that allowed them to bypass the creatures without being noticed. The relief he felt as they moved past them safely was immense, but he remained vigilant, knowing that more challenges could appear at any moment. As they approached the top of the mountain, the spacecraft became visible, hovering silently with a soft glow. It was even more magnificent than Aaron had imagined, with lights that shimmered like stars and a design that seemed alive. Seeing it filled both him and the girl with awe. The Queen appeared on the landing platform, radiant and calm, waiting to receive her daughter. The girl ran toward her mother, tears of relief streaming down her face. The Queen embraced her tightly, her presence radiating power and gratitude. Aaron stood back, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and quiet pride in what he had achieved. The Queen turned to Aaron, her eyes filled with respect. "You have done well," she said. "Not only have you rescued my daughter, but you have shown courage, intelligence, and care. These qualities are more important than any reward I could give." She gestured to a platform where a crown rested, its design glowing with a soft light. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility as he looked at it. He understood that accepting it meant stepping into a role far beyond what he had known, a life of leadership, responsibility, and connection to a world that was almost beyond human understanding. Aaron realized that the journey had changed him. He was no longer just a young man fascinated by the stars. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and he had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident. The experiences he had endured, the forests, the mountains, the facility, and the moments guiding and protecting the girl, had taught him lessons he could never have learned in ordinary life. Courage, patience, empathy, and quick thinking had become part of who he was. Before making a decision, Aaron spent a quiet moment reflecting on everything. He thought about the Queen's daughter, who was now safe, the lessons he had learned, and the life he had left behind. He realized that the crown was more than a reward. It was a responsibility that required wisdom, fairness, and care for others. The journey had not only been about rescuing someone, but also about discovering the kind of person he could be. The Queen spoke again, sensing his thoughts. "The choice is yours," she said. "The crown is not just for power. It is for someone who can lead with understanding and courage. Choose wisely, for your decision will shape the future." Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He understood that this was not simply about ambition, but about the values he wanted to live by. Finally, Aaron stepped forward, not with the desire for the crown itself, but with the knowledge of what it represented and the responsibility it carried. The Queen nodded, a quiet smile of approval on her face. She understood that his choice reflected true wisdom and maturity. The mission was complete, but the lessons and growth from the journey would remain with him forever. As the Queen and her daughter prepared to leave, Aaron watched the spacecraft slowly lift off into the sky. The glow of the ship merged with the first light of dawn, creating a breathtaking scene. He felt a mix of emotions, relief, pride, and a deep sense of connection to something far greater than himself. The mission had ended successfully, but the impact of the journey would remain in his heart and mind for the rest of his life. Here's part 5. fully expanded in simple, engaging English, around 1,000 words. After the Queen and her daughter departed, Aaron stood on the mountain, looking at the place where the spacecraft had disappeared into the sky. He felt an emptiness at first, a sense of completion, but also the realization that his extraordinary journey had come to an end. The quiet of the mountain, once filled with danger and tension, now felt peaceful. Aaron reflected on everything he had experienced: the forests, rivers, mountains, the hidden facility, and the moments of courage that had defined the mission. He understood that his life had changed forever. The journey had taught him lessons that no ordinary experience could offer. He had learned patience, facing obstacles step by step without rushing. He had learned courage, acting despite fear and uncertainty. He had learned empathy, caring deeply for someone who relied on him completely. And he had learned wisdom, understanding that power and responsibility were connected, and that true leadership required more than ambition. It required care, fairness, and understanding. These lessons would guide him in the years to come, shaping the way he approached challenges and relationships in life. Returning home, Aaron noticed that even ordinary things seemed extraordinary now. The familiar trees, the quiet streets, and the night sky filled with stars all appeared different, as if he had seen the world through new eyes. He realized that adventure and learning were not only found in distant places, but also in the choices and courage he applied to everyday life. Each step of his journey had prepared him to face uncertainty with confidence and to approach life with a sense of purpose. Though the crown had been offered, Aaron understood that the true reward was not an object or title, but the growth he had experienced. He had stepped beyond fear, made difficult decisions, and acted selflessly to help another. The Queen had given him the chance to prove himself, but it was his choices and actions that defined the outcome. He felt a quiet pride, knowing that he had acted with courage, intelligence, and care throughout the mission. Aaron also realized the value of connection, the bond he had formed with the Queen's daughter during their journey. He had supported her, guided her, and reassured her, and in return he had learned about trust, hope, and resilience. This relationship reminded him that true strength is not only about facing danger alone, but also about supporting others and building connections, based on understanding and care. These lessons were more valuable than any crown or title. Over the following days and weeks, Aaron continued to reflect on the journey. He shared his experiences with close friends in ways that inspired them, not by showing power, but by demonstrating courage, patience, and empathy. People were amazed at his story, but Aaron knew that the most important part was not the adventure itself. It was the transformation he had undergone. The journey had revealed his potential and shown him the kind of person he could become when faced with extraordinary challenges. Aaron understood